It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
And here we go. It's the Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. I'm Dave Koch, glad to have you with me today. Good lineup of guests. Jeff Davis from Caesars Entertainment will be joining us in a little bit. We'll go behind the counter with Jeff, find out what's happening at the Caesars properties as far as the big games on tonight's schedule are concerned. Jason Brinks later on in the show to talk some college basketball. It's just me in studio today. Teddy's a little bit under the weather. He will hopefully be back in the groove and here on Friday. And, of course, Ralph Michaels will be here tomorrow. Jared Justice is producing the show. And we get to talk about something good right at the top. The Golden Knights, I tell you, they were in a tough spot going into last night. 4 straight losses, good-sized underdogs at Tampa Bay. They're facing the best team in the league on the road. They're down 2-0 in the game. It really looks like the Golden Knights are going to have their longest losing streak ever. I know, ever's a short time because they've only been in existence 2 years. But nevertheless, the thought was, this looks like 5 losses in a row, and the team needs to get something going. Well, they did. They came back. They fought back in that game. They killed off a number of penalties in the contest. At one point, Tampa had 5 power plays as opposed to just 1 for the Golden Knights. But the Golden Knights hung tough, managed to tie the game, almost won it in regulation. Some great saves by Vasilevsky. The overtime session was dominated by the Golden Knights. They actually got a power play in the extra session. Couldn't put one past Vaz. I mean, this guy was just iron in goal for Tampa. And they went to a shootout, and then this happened.
It's the bottom of the third round and a chance for Alex Tuch to win the game for the Golden Knights. Starts right to the slot, backhand, forehand, he scores! Alex Tuch, Golden Knights win it. 3-2 Vegas in a shootout. Alex Tuch.
And that ends the 4-game losing streak in a great way. I'll make the argument that playoff games excluded, obviously, the playoffs would be more important. But in terms of regular season games that the Golden Knights have played since coming into being, that's the biggest win they've had. Because the team was not going well right now. Nobody's going to be surprised at all if they come out with the 0-5, losing at Tampa, and they're down 2-0 in the game. That was a phenomenal comeback. Nice win for those who backed the Golden Knights on the money line, and for those who thought, well, I'm a Golden Knights fan, but I'm going against them here. Didn't work out real well for you. Real nice win for the Golden Knights. Let's talk a little bit of college basketball from last night. Utah State picked up a really important win at Fresno State. Good game in the Mountain West. Point spread hijinks, not hijinks, but a point spread swing at the end of the game with 1 second left. Fresno hit a 3 to cut the final score to 1. So that cost some Fresno backers, or some Utah State backers who played it late, cost them a win. And for those who played it fairly early, it earned them a push rather than a win. The garbage threes do matter. But the bottom line is Utah State, which went into yesterday 41st in the Ken Palm rankings, and I think looking very much like an NCAA at-large possibility. This was a really big game for the Aggies on the road to protect that position and, in fact, enhance it. And they did so. They got revenge from the earlier loss to Fresno, which, curiously enough, was also a 1-point decision. With Utah State losing by 1 on their home court, I think the only time they trailed in the game was the final score to Fresno. They get the reversal and go in and get a really important win. Good victory for Utah State. Good win for the Mountain West because they're, it's not going to be a banner season by any means for the conference, but if they can get 2 teams in, assuming Nevada and Utah State, that would be a great thing. Now, of course, the worry still would be, because I don't think the Mountain West can get 3 teams in, the concern is that it better be Nevada or Utah State winning the conference tournament, because if somebody else steals that bid, it could very well be a steal from Utah State. Nevada's going to be in the tournament regardless. So if you're a Mountain West fan and you want the 2 best teams in the league in, you better hope that Nevada or Utah State wins the conference tournament. Of course, UNLV fans might have something to say about that, but I don't know if they'd be speaking very loudly at this point. We will talk about the UNLV-Boise State game later in the show. We'll make that our Wager Talk marquee matchup. Meanwhile, Michigan State, they go down for the 3rd straight time in Big Ten play. And Look, when I was handicapping the games for yesterday, the first thing that jumped out at me was, Michigan State's off back-to-back losses in conference. That sounds like it might be a good situation to back Tom Izzo's team. And, that's why you research stuff. And going back to like 2008, when Michigan State was off 2 consecutive Big Ten losses, hardly automatic the third time around, 6-5 straight up and against the spread. So maybe it wasn't all it was cracked up to be at first glance, and you can make that now 6-6 straight up and against the spread because Michigan State trailed for nearly the entire game and ended up losing on the road to Illinois. So 3 straight conference losses now for Michigan State. I have not yet done the research to see what their record is off 3 straight conference losses. I'm going to bet it's better than 500. But it's, maybe some holes there right now. The Spartans are not playing particularly well. They did not look good defensively last night against the Fighting Illini. Nice win for Illinois, to put it mildly. You can argue that's the best win they've had since Underwood took over as head coach. And Illinois may be moving in the right direction right now. And we'll look at the Kansas State-Kansas game because, if you're even mildly familiar with this rivalry, it's been all Kansas in basketball. I think they'd won 10 straight meetings. Kansas State wins over Kansas have been extremely few and far between. And it looked like it might be the case again last night. I thought Kansas State, they came out playing well early, but then just hit a snag. And they went off trailing at the half. And the thought process I had, I wasn't betting it. I didn't have a bet on the game. And I wasn't going to bet it at halftime either. But, I'm just sitting there watching the game and going, this might be one of those situations where the pressure now is really on Kansas State. Because this is the first time, I can't say it's the first time they've been favored over Kansas in a while, but I think it's the first time in a long time the expectations that the Wildcats would beat the Jayhawks were as high as they were last night. This was a massive game for Kansas State. Absolute monster game. And here's the Jayhawks going off at half with the lead, and you just wonder, is the collar going to get a little bit tighter on Kansas State? Are they going to find a way to lose to Kansas once again? Well, the answer is no, because the Wildcats came out and played a sterling second half, end up getting the win and the cover in the process, even as 3-point favorites. Really good win for Kansas State. Look, they weren't bad last year. They very quietly made a nice run in the NCAA tournament. I don't think there's going to be anything quiet about them this year. Bruce Weber's got them playing really good basketball. It's Weber-style basketball. They're not the most exciting team in the country, that's for sure. But they're really effective defensively. They're playing to their strengths. And you got 2 teams, the Big 12 right now, that were not predicted to be where they are, but they are. And that's Kansas State and Baylor. And we'll look at the Baylor-Texas game in just a little bit because we're going to do that when we get to the 4. Well, no, actually, we're not going to do that in the 4 at 4. We're going to do it someplace. I think we're going to actually do it with Jason Brinks later on. Let's touch on the NBA for a moment before we get to the 4 at 4. And a disaster last night for the Lakers at Indiana. The worst, most lopsided loss in LeBron James' career in a game in which he was an active participant. And look, you don't have to be Albert Einstein to figure this one out, okay? This team is a mess right now, and it really is on management. I don't think management really cares about this season, but they are kind of getting what they asked for right now with a team that is completely fragmented because most of the roster has no idea where they're going to be playing next week or next season. That's not the way to produce cohesiveness. And to put it mildly, the Lakers, they weren't exactly cohesive last night. They were awful against the Oladipo-less Pacers, who everybody's written off at this point, and the Pacers win the game by, 70? All right, it wasn't quite that much, but you get the impression. It was in the 40s, folks. I don't know if the Lakers are going to make the playoffs. They're, I believe, 10th right now, and I don't know how important it is for them to make the playoffs. I mean, it's not a situation where they've got to make a trade at the deadline just to enhance their possibilities this year, because the future is what the Lakers are looking at. And some people are worried about the future as well. Are they only going to have 2 superstars if they lean Anthony Davis to go with LeBron James? What are they going to have around that? Well, I would say they'll find a way to have something more around that. I think they'll make a big push for Kawhi Leonard or somebody along those lines. And they will try and go the superstar route and build a team with a few big stars and some role players around them and see if they can become champions in that fashion. But one thing for sure, Lakers are not a go-with team right now. And for those who got enthused about the Lakers coming into this season with LeBron James now running the show and bet the over on the win total, you're not looking real good. Let's go to today's MJ Christensen 4-4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And that's not unbelievable, though, is that there are great sales going on right now for Valentine's Day at MJ Christensen Diamonds, their one location at Boca Park. They've been there for almost 80 years. Family-owned. It's their only location. They're so actively involved in so many community efforts here in Las Vegas. And you're going to save a bundle right there right now because you're looking at discounts of between 30 and 70% on selected items throughout the store. So take a ride over to Boca Park and visit MJ Christensen to get that special someone in your life the perfect Valentine's gift. You can also check them out online at mjchristensen.com or like them on Facebook and follow them there for even more offers. Let's go to the NBA first, and I'll throw a little caveat in here that I am not particularly following the NBA very closely in the regular season. So, take this one with the entire canister of salt, not just a grain, okay? But the Denver Nuggets are at New Jersey tonight to face the surprising Nets. Denver's a 3.5-point favorite. Money line's 160, and the total in the game 226. So you've got the Nuggets. Now, I know you've heard us talk about this before, where the fans and the media are more into the seeding than the players or the team management, and that is a truism. But there are exceptions to the rule. Now, I don't think Golden State. I honestly don't think Golden State cares whether they're 1, 2, or 3. They don't care where they're seated in the Western Conference. They don't care whether they're playing at home on the road. They know they're the team to beat. But for the Denver Nuggets, it's a little bit different situation. I think they really would love to get that number 1 seed in the West. That would be a heck of an accomplishment for them. Well, they lost last game, knocked them out of that number 1 spot. They're now behind the Warriors. So Denver coming off a loss that ended their winning streak, not in possession of the number 1 spot now. I think that maybe heightens their sense of urgency for this game. The Nets have been playing well. There's no question about that. But I think you're going to have a Denver team that's fairly well motivated tonight, coming off a bad game. And I don't think this would be a spot to go against the Nuggets. So just a lean here. It's not a play, but I would go Nuggets minus 3.5. Meanwhile, those Golden State Warriors, now in possession of the number 1 seed in the West, at least for the time being, they're big favorites tonight at home against the San Antonio Spurs. And we have revenge on the docket here because the last time these teams met, it was the Spurs who came out on top. So you would think you really do have to pick your spots for Golden State in terms of when they're going to show up to play, when they are going to feel that maybe a little added incentive that pushes them over the top. I got a feeling this could be one of those games. But you're still going to have to pay a really serious premium if you want to bet the Warriors. They're $2,000 on the money line. The minus 14.5 as far as the spread's concerned. Maybe you go total 231. If the Warriors are in the mood to play, they're probably going to put up some big points. I would not lay 14.5. But again, in this spot, I probably would only play the Warriors. On the college side, Creighton taking on Villanova. Actually, I went out of order here. Let me go in order. Maryland, Nebraska. And the Cornhuskers are in a free fall right now. But they are favored tonight over the Terrapins. 2.5. Money line is minus 150. Total's 135. And, I didn't play this game, but I have a feeling Nebraska's going to win tonight. I think they might be catching Maryland in the right spot. And if ever a team was desperate for a win, it's the Cornhuskers. Here's the problem with it. Coming into the season, Nebraska had a real reason to go out and treat these regular season games with tremendous importance because they felt, doesn't matter what I feel, they felt they got snubbed last year by the NCAA Tournament Committee. 13-5 in the Big Ten, a lot of wins. They didn't have the big quality non-conference wins, but in any event, they ended up in the NIT. And early on, this looked like a team that was playing with some serious intensity, gearing themselves up to make themselves very attractive as an at-large candidate.